Jane Goodall is here. Over the years, her pioneering studies have shown the many striking similarities between humans and chimpanzees. More recently, she has spent her time campaigning for the need to protect wildlife and to protect the environment. She's a spokesperson for the upcoming PBS documentary Evolution, which will premiere on September 24th. Her latest book, The Chimpanzees I Love, is geared towards younger readers and tells the story of her life. In October, she is to be awarded the Gandhi King Peace Award for Nonviolence. I'm very, very pleased to have her back at this table.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
It's good to see you, Charlie, too.
There's much to talk about. Tell me why you think, what is it about you that you think has contributed significantly to your success and the fact that people come flocking to your lectures? Grown men and women cry and you tell your stories?
I think, actually, it's a combination of different things. First of all, you know, when I started the chimp research, it was like Beauty and the Beast. It was totally unusual for young ladies, or anyone really, to go tramping out into the wilderness living with animals. And in fact, Louis Leakey was even considered amoral for finally, yes. And so then the National Geographic picked it up, you know, and there were all these stories and documentaries. It is a bit dramatic. Yeah. Jane out in the jungle,
right, exactly.
26 years old, you know, a different Jane from now, but basically the same. Right. And then as I started moving from just studying the chimps to trying to conserve them and realizing the damage that we've inflicted on the planet, and realizing how so many young people who are thoughtful have actually lost hope in the future. They believe we've compromised it. And feeling really so ashamed of what we've done as a human species to this beautiful planet, the only home we have, and trying to put across to people that if we don't take matters into our own hands and do things in our daily lives that are going to make things better, then there's not much hope for the future.
I mean, it's amazing to me that we have done so much good in terms of the battle against disease and lots of other things in terms of stretching the capacity of human knowledge, the exploration of life in worlds beyond. Yes. And yet at the same time, we're doing terribly destructive to this planet. Yeah. And we're also being terribly destructive of each other in terms of war.
And look, right now there's a threat of nuclear arms proliferation again, as countries are being told, go ahead, do your nuclear tests. And that's really frightening. So to me, it's terribly important that people, A, realize the fact that I don't know that we have that much time before life as we know it today is going to be, you know, gone.
What's the biggest danger, you think?
I think the biggest danger is the rapid extinction of species, and that's coming along with the destruction of the environment.
We have no sense of that, you know?
No.
If I walked outside on the streets of New York and said, what do you know about the rapid extinction of species? They'd say, what?
Yeah, we're facing the 6th great extinction. Yeah. And that's discussed in this new PBS series on evolution. It's a very, very critical time that we face as these species vanish at such a fast rate. And of course, underlying all of this is human population growth. We're just spiraling out of control. And on the one hand, in some parts of the globe, we have tremendous destruction of the environment because of the numbers of people living there. And on the other part of the globe, we have terrible overconsumption of people using, taking, buying greedily more than they need, more than they need.
So what drives you?
So what drives me is I want to get a message across, not only to youth, but to adults as well, that we have to change our ways. It's desperately important. But the message, too, that there certainly is hope if we take action now. And I think that's the message people are flocking to hear.
That there is hope if we act.
That there's hope if we act. And people are desperate. What can I do? What can I do? And I mean, it's a very simple. Those of us fortunate enough to live in the wealthier parts of society, like you and me,
right.
We have this huge power to make ethical choices in what we buy. There's nobody forcing us to buy products tested on animals, products made by industries, businesses that are not friendly to the environment or society. We don't have to buy genetically modified food. We can search for organic food, and so on and so on and so on. And if we do
any genetically modified food is good?
No, I don't.
None.
I wouldn't say none. I don't know possibly enough about it to say none. But by and large,
no,
I mean,
you will get a debate on that, as you know.
Of course, but it's filled with toxin. The toxins that kill the insects that would eat it. You know, when the roots and stuff in the plant go back into the ground, the toxins are going into the ground. And how can that possibly be good? And you know something, Charlie, but it took 30 years to discover that the long-term cumulative effects of DDT, hailed as a wonder chemical, was so terribly damaging to the environment.
Who was that, Rachel Carson? Who did that?
Rachel Carson, yeah. And then CFCs, the same thing, but we're still doing it. It's still going out there. And the pollution is, in some places, I mean, the children that we love, that we bring into the world, their bodies are being poisoned by the water they drink, by the food that they eat, by the air that they breathe.
Define where you are, what you do today. I mean, are you a crusading environmentalist, or?
Well, it's hard for me to describe exactly what I am. I mean, some people still consider me a scientist. Yeah. I get used a lot as a role model. But do you consider yourself a scientist today? Well, I never went into my life with the aim of being a scientist, but I can be a scientist. It's one of the hats I can now wear. I did a PhD, and you know, I can wear that.
Once a science, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's very useful if I'm going in to talk to people in medical research labs and that sort of thing. It's very useful to be able to be a scientist, but also an educator, a conservation education person, an environmentalist, a conservationist.
But do you feel like that, I mean, you know, it's almost like Jane Goodall is this person that because of who she is, you have a duty to maximize her potential, her impact, her, right? It's almost like there's this character.
Out there.
Out there.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. It's that character out there because I'm still me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still me.
Exactly. What do you want the legacy to be?
I want to see a world where we no longer use and abuse animals as we do today, when we don't use animals in medical research, when we stop having food animals in, you know, little tiny pens with wobbly legs filled up with hormones and antibiotics, which are dangerous for us too, as well as the suffering of the animal. I want to see a world where we no longer think it's funny and cute to see dressed up animals parading around in a circus. We know they're beaten into performing. And I want to see a world where we treat other animals in the way we should treat each other. But we've got a long way to go.
The golden rule for animals, huh?
Yes. In fact, I'm just co-authoring a book basically on that. It's, you know, we have a long way to go, but there is also something fascinating. If children in early life learn to respect and care for an animal, they're much more likely to be compassionate in their dealings with each other.
See, I believe that.
It's really true. And think what animals do for us in hospitals, in prisons, with sick people, with old people. They just bring, you know, I mean, in our office now in Silver Spring, the Jane Goodall Institute, a young man said, I can't come and work for you unless I can bring my dog Lincoln.
What did you say?
So fortunately, we've got a brand new president of the Institute who loves dogs. And he said, sure. Now, Lincoln has changed the office. Everyone's more relaxed. When Lincoln comes in, everyone is smiling and tensions go away.
Absolutely. I have a friend who's now late, approaching 90, and I don't think he had a dog until he was about retired, prominent, 75, maybe 75. And it's just, I mean, the love affair with the dog is just amazing to me.
I know.
You know, and after his wife died, it became a perfect companion.
Yeah.
You know, a friend.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, I mean, I never thought I would see it in my life. You know, and it's just
amazing.
a joy. But if you think about children, also I love to watch the naturalness. I mean, I mainly think about dogs, but the naturalness of children with animals. It is just so. To walk through the park, Central Park, watch how kids react. You know, and that ought to be encouraged, and ought to, as you say, it would develop the best of human instincts.
And there are, you know, there are programs now that are taking either dogs or wild animals that can't be reintroduced to the wild, but who are happy with human contact. They take them into some of these inner city schools, and it's life transforming for some of these kids. They change, their whole attitude changes.
Yeah. Have you changed any of your ideas? I mean, how, do you see the world differently now, in terms of spirituality, in terms of?
Not really. You know, when I was young, we grew up in a house where we went to church on Sunday. Not every Sunday, but we did. My grandfather was a congregational minister, and I never met him, but his wife, my grandmother, was there. Yeah. So we got these Christian values, and from the age of 1.5, I loved animals. I watched them, I named them, I cared for them, and so as I've been through my whole life, I think I've developed perhaps a slightly different, well, a very different, really, way of looking at
but
what
your
I
own
see as a
spirituality
great
is not what you learned to do.
No, it isn't. Not really.
It's much more of a.
It's more inclusive.
Yeah.
You know, thinking about the different people in the different great religious traditions, or the people, well, especially the Native Americans, the First Nation people, the indigenous people, and the great creator. And this.
But why you? Why do you think you had this thing that just?
I ask myself that, Charlie, almost every day. Why me? I say, why me? I don't know. How can I ever know? How can anybody ever know? Why me? And yet if I look back over my life, it almost seems that each section of it prepared me for the next. And there were places along the line where I could have made different choices, and I would have ended up somewhere different.
But instinctively you did the right thing, you think?
Apparently. Well, I think I did. I mean, do you think I did?
Yeah, I do.
I think I did.
As long as you keep going back and reinforcing your connection.
Yes, but I can get that connection if I walk into some beautiful forest or wood or somewhere where there's nature. You know, I mean, in the middle of a really busy tour, just a few months ago, I got a whole extra day free. Something was postponed, and I was taken into Yellowstone by one of our great wildlife photographers, Tom Mangelson. Right. And it was just like, gosh, everything came flowing back in. I got so much strength from just being out there and seeing bears for the first time, and buffalo and a wolf. It was just a magic renewal. I'm going to do it more.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
It's great to see you.
Good to see you too.
Jane Goodall's latest book is The Chimpanzee I Love, Saving Their World and Ours. This is a book for children. The PBS program Evolution is going to be seen on PBS stations. Premieres September 24th through the 27th. Jane is the spokesperson for that special. And as I mentioned, with congratulations, she is the third recipient of the Gandhi King Peace Award for Nonviolence, which will be held on October 30th at the United Nations Millennium Peace Summit. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.
It is a bit dramatic, Jane out in the jungle,
right, exactly.
26 years old, you know, a different Jane from now, but basically the same. Right. And then as I started moving from just studying the chimps to trying to conserve them and realizing the damage that we've inflicted on the planet, and realizing how so many young people who are thoughtful have actually lost hope in the future. They believe we've compromised it. And feeling...
Jane Goodall is here. Over the years, her pioneering studies have shown the many striking similarities between humans and chimpanzees. More recently, she has spent her time campaigning for the need to protect wildlife and to protect the environment. She's a spokesperson for the upcoming PBS documentary Evolution, which will premiere on September 24th. Her latest book, The Chimpanzees I Love, is geared towards younger readers and tells the story of her life. In October, she is to be awarded the Gandhi King Peace Award for Nonviolence. I'm very, very pleased to have her back at this table.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
It's good to see you, Charlie, too.
There's much to talk about. Tell me why you think, what is it about you that you think has contributed significantly to your success and the fact that people come flocking to your lectures? Grown men and women cry and you tell your stories?
I think actually it's a combination of different things. First of all, you know, when I started the chimp research, it was like Beauty and the Beast. It was totally unusual for young ladies, or anyone really, to go tramping out into the wilderness living with animals. And in fact, Louis Leakey was even considered amoral for finally, yes. And so then the National Geographic picked it up, you know, and there were all these stories and documentaries, really so ashamed of what we've done as a human species to this beautiful planet, the only home we have, and trying to put across to people that if we don't take matters into our own hands and do things in our daily lives that are going to make things better, then there's not much hope for the future.
I mean, it's amazing to me that we have done so much good in terms of the battle against disease and lots of other things in terms of stretching the capacity of human knowledge.